All right, we're going to play around with functions and seeing the causes and effects of different configurations. All right, so first off, let's start out with a simple program creating a data type of integer, creating a variable x and assigning a value of 11. And no surprise when we run this, that we should get the value 11. Now, a couple of things I want to do and explain what I'm configuring here. So this is obviously our main function. And what I want to do is anything that I have in main, I want to prefix it by this little arrow syntax so we know when we're in the main and when we're in the function. So let's create a function, and this particular function we're going to do a void function. So we'll do void fn1, and we're going to be utilizing a data type of int and a variable of a. We're doing a function declaration and this. So again, the void means that there's going to be no return value. So here we're going to add basically the function call fun1 of x. So here we have basically the function f1 call statement, and then down below is my information, my syntax for function 1. So I set up a whole little area here. Again, void fun1 init a, and this is my function heading. And then we have our curly brackets here to identify the body of the function. You notice here when the variable gets put in here, we're incrementing it. And I'm also doing something unique here just to clarify and identify easier that the output here is basically part of the function. Now, you don't have to do this. This is just to show you exactly that we are in the function area and executing all these parts. So when we run it, what do you think the value of a is going to be when this runs? So we start out with 11. We're basically in the function area. The value of the function is 12, as you would expect, and there we go. Now, what happens then after this function completes after the value? So let me add a line over here. Let's do cout. All right, so what's going to be the value of the function, or the value of x after the function call? So let's take a look. All right, so you notice that the function after the function, the value is going to be 11, right? Because everything changed in this particular area. All right, now let's take another little step here and play around with the values, and let's see what happens with this. So cout, and let's basically multiply this by a times a. So we're going to increment the number, multiply the value. So what do you think the value is going to be this time around? All right, 144, because this gets changed to, right, we get passing 11, gets added one more. So that's 12, so 12 times 12 is 144, and then we output the value of x, which hasn't changed in the main statement. All right, now let's change this around, so we're going to get a return value. So let's take a look at this. So instead of utilizing void now, we're going to change this to int. Come back and change this to int. And the other thing we're going to add is basically return, and let's say we want the return value of a plus 10. All right, so let's follow along with the function here and what it's doing. So we start out with the main. We're going to start out with 11, so it should print 11. We're going to do a function call. It's going to come over here. We're going to pass the variables, so it should have the same information. Now the question is, what information is it going to return here, and then what information is going to display here? That's very interesting to see. So what do you think? And let's run it and see what your answer is. Right, it's still basically 11. Now you expected that the value would be a different value since we added 1 that should have been 12 plus another 10, it would have been 22, but it's not the case. Alright, so now what about if we do something like this? So we're going to do int x and then we'll add another variable called y. We'll take the value here of fun1 and we'll assign it a value of y, and we'll change this variable to y. And what do you think is going to happen? So what's going to get displayed? So if you look at the output, we should get basically an answer of, there you go, 22. And this again is basically outside of the function, so the value of the function is 22. Now here's the thing. You notice that there were some additional variables, some additional code that was written. If I'm only going to be utilizing the result and not planning on utilizing the result in other variables, right, I could simply remove this, get rid of this line, and basically do a call statement fun1 of x right here. So you notice I skipped a lot of different variables. I reduced the amount of line by 1. Now when we run it, we should get basically the same result. There you go. So the value of x, right, is 11. The value of the function, so this is basically where the function gets called. The value of the function is 44, and the function, right, and then here is our value of 22. Now obviously syntax need to be fixed up accordingly, how I wanted to output that, but again I just want to show you how reducing the amount of code, reducing the amount of lines and additional variables if we're not going to be utilizing the results from the function. Now another thing to keep in mind, this was basically a function call, but a call by value. In another segment I'll go into detail of what happens when we do a call by pointer.